Hello, COVID cooking pals. Today we're going to make some salmon. I'm going to make it sous vide, which is about the simplest thing you can do. Very simple cooking. Let you know a few things you want to think about when you're deciding exactly how to do that, however. I just have two fillets here. They are Atlantic fillets. They're about, I think maybe this is about a half pound. This is maybe a little more. So a little over a half pound each. Here's what we want to think about. The key thing to decide when you're going to do these sous vide is what temperature do you want to serve them at. The temperature you serve them at controls the texture of the flesh, and people have strong preferences about that. The range, if you're going to do this sous vide, is about 110 degrees Fahrenheit, would be the low end. That's very rare. And 130 degrees Fahrenheit would be the top end, and that's fully cooked, probably medium well to well. But with sous vide, you can control your temperature anywhere in that range. If you want it at 112, if you want it at 114, you can control that. So I'm going to make these today, I guess, I'm going to say 125. At 110, the salmon is going to look a lot like it looks right now. It's going to be, you know, I have a hard time calling it cooked at 110. It's more warmed. You get up to 120, the salmon is still going to be dark orange in color, but it's going to start to flake a bit. 130, it's going to be light pink and quite flaky. Beyond 130, there's not any point in doing it in sous vide. You've just cooked the fish all the way through, and if you want your fish that well cooked, you should pan fry it or broil it, or do something fun. One disadvantage to sous vide salmon is the skin is not particularly delicious at gently cooked at 125 degrees. If you don't eat the skin, that's maybe not a big deal. Some people peel the skin off and broil it separately, and then you can have your delicious salmon at exactly the temperature you want it and crispy skin, but of course you've separated it, so the presentation isn't so nice. So the first thing we have to decide is, what temperature do we want to do? I'm going to do about 125. You can look at it and see. If 125 looks rare to you, you want to go up a few degrees. If 125 looks, maybe you want it more sashimi style, then knock it down 122, 120. Okay, the next thing we have to decide is how we're going to marinate this, if at all. Do we want to do anything before we cook it? We're going to do a real simple marinade today. We're just going to do a dry marinade in salt and sugar. So I'm going to take these over and rinse them off first thing. Just rinsing them in cold water, whether or not it makes a difference. All right, I'm going to lay them out here, and I'm going to pat them dry with a few paper towels just to get the excess water off them before we start the dry brine. That can all be thrown away, and now I can wash my hands. So in our dry brine, we're going to use just salt and sugar. Traditional proportions are 2 times the salt to the sugar, so 2 portions of salt for every portion of sugar. We're just going to mix them up. The quantity doesn't really matter, since we're just going to sprinkle as much on the fish as we want, and it's not going to take much, but let's do it anyway. So for salt, you want to use sea salt or kosher salt, not iodized salt. So this is what I have. That's my coarse sea salt. And this is my granulated sugar. So I'm going to have to mash the coarse sea salt, and I want it finely powdered. So I'm going to get out my mortar and pestle, and we're going to go 2 to 1 by weight. All we need is, I mean, for this we need maybe 10 grams of salt. Let's see. Says that's 10 grams, so let's try to get 5 grams of sugar in there, and then we will have our ratio. All right, close enough. All right, so I'm just going to mash that coarse salt into a powder so that it will be more appropriate for a dry brine. All right, real simple. Now we are going to liberally coat this. It's we're only going to leave this in the fridge for say 30 or 45 minutes. Maybe 45 is better than 30. I don't know. For a dry brine and a fish like this, this is not like a long overnight brine. If you want to do that, you should probably package it up. I'm just going to leave this out open in the fridge. I say 45 minutes will be fine. All right, that's about as liberally as I can do it. Now I have to wash my hands again, and then I will put that in the fridge, and I will see you in about 45 minutes. And welcome back. It's 45 minutes. I've done some cleanup, and I preheated the sous vide to 125. As I said, that's going to be our test temperature, because it's halfway between 120, which is pretty rare, and 130, which is pretty well done. Okay, so I've just had the salmon in the fridge. I just put down a paper towel. You don't need to waste a pan or anything. So I hope you can see this. Looks pretty good. Yeah, so here's the good news that this makes me think about. These fillets are not the same size. They're not, now that they're seasoned, they're not really that close. This one is half a pound. That one is more. Sous vide cooking, that matters not a bit. Not a bit. Make as many sizes as you want. It doesn't matter. If you're broiling them, that might be a problem. If you're pan frying them, one of them has to stay in the pan longer. Sous vide, it doesn't matter. Okay, so in the bag, I'm going to put, I think, a couple lemon slices. These are more realistically for aromatics than flavor, but I'm going to put them in, well, maybe I'll put them in on one, just to show you where I would put them, and to see whether it makes any difference. We'll do a little test. Otherwise, these are ready to bag. So, that's my food saver. These are my food saver bags. Now here's a tip. This is one of the few things you could actually, like, you could do it not wrong, but you could do it differently. So these food saver bags have one side with a mesh pattern that is for allowing, basically for allowing the vacuum, for allowing air or liquids to be drawn up, and the other side is smooth. So what we want to do with our bags is put the smooth side on the top of the salmon, because we don't really care if the skin side gets that diamond texture. And something as delicate as fish, you will see that diamond texture from the bag. All right. So the way we make these bags is we seal one end. Oh, I guess we plug this in first. That probably would help. Plug this in, seal one side of the bag. Then we're going to put in our salmon. I guess with the big one we'll put in some lemons, and then we'll seal up the other side. If you don't have a seal system, you can do these in a Ziploc bag and when put them in water and kind of press the air out. You know, when I started doing this technique, that's how I did it. But it's not like these food saver things are all that expensive. Okay, so again, shiny side is going to go on the presentation side, and the diamond pattern is going to go on the bottom. So for the big one, I'm going to put in my lemon. I'm going to put it on the bottom side, and I'm going to lay the skin on top of that. I'll try to do it with tongs just to save myself having to wash my hands again. I don't know if this will work or not. There we go. That's one. The other thing about sous vide that's good is, you know, I'm cooking 2 roughly half-pound pieces of salmon. If I wanted to cook 10, I'd just be doing the same thing. Take up more space in my fridge. That's all. Okay. So, if you have one of the fancy food savers that allows you to decide how much pressure to put on, you want less pressure. You don't really need that much pressure. So that's what mine does. I just have to press the button faster if I don't want it to reach the point of full vacuum according to the factory preset. Salmon is a delicate thing. It's not like you're trying to, you know, put a lamb shank under vacuum. These home appliances have plenty of vacuum. So I'm not going to let it go all the way. I just seal it up till it's pretty much got the air out, because it's the air that we're worried about. We don't want any excess air. Air is an insulator, and that defeats the purpose. Okay, there are bags of salmon. One of them's with lemon wedges. That's our test. 125 preheat. In they go. And let's do that for 45 minutes and see what they're like. Okay, see you in another 45.